Okay, hello fellow Beastians. It's your one and only Gaming Beast, and today, well, anyway, it's been a while, but I'm going to do some more videos in the next following days. I've said this a million times. I just needed a break, and I'm kind of back. But anyway, so this is a response to Francois, aka JdrD30, who I consider a good friend and an awesome DM and player, and he's great. And he has, let me see if everything is okie dokie here with the sound. Okay, yeah, sound is going through. Okay. I had some issues with Google Hangout, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So he's talking about his top 5 favorite RPG moments. Okay. And it took me a while to figure out, because there's so many that that just piled up over the course of my gaming career, or whatever you want to call it. Not career, I'm kidding. Years in the hobby, basically. And so this is a couple that I could think about. Now, obviously, an older one is, of course, with the Dark Eye, the first RPG, and for a long time the only RPG that I played. Was in the Dark Eye. I was playing that with 2 friends of mine. Actually, yeah, we were playing with 2 friends back in Hungary, and the cool thing was that the Dark Eye had a very advanced. It had a whole section it had a whole book just on plants. I'm not even kidding. Plants and alchemy. And alchemy was very advanced. Making potions, you had actually recipes for potions, so you had to collect the items. And there was advanced rules, so when you would roll the alchemy roll, then you would see, depending on how good your roll was, you could see the quality of what the quality for the potion was. It's really cool, and the best way you don't tell to the player. But anyway, one thing that was cool in that book was there was a whole section on drugs, basically, which I thought was hilarious. And so, of course, we're like teenagers, basically, and what do? We do stupid shit. And basically, in the game, one of them played a dwarf, the other one played just a human warrior. We did some fighting against a couple of orcs or some bandits, I don't know, some monsters. And they had some loot, of course, and what did they spend the loot on? Drugs. And it was like all kinds of crazy drugs. I remember basically it was like living and loathing in Las Vegas, the RPG, but in a fantasy setting. And the drugs, you would actually, every time you would take a drug, there was also a certain role you had to see for dependency, and depending on the drug and how potent it was, the higher chance it was that you became dependent on it. And of course, listen here, drugs are not cool. We were just fooling around, okay? This was just a fun idea, just to try it out, really, because if you see a mechanic in a role-playing game, you want to try it out, right? So for me, like, I never did anything, and I never want to do anything, with drugs or stuff. I'm absolutely against this stuff. But since it's a role-playing game, let's have fun, right? And they basically got high off their ass. And I remember there was one drug, a particularly potent drug that was really expensive, and it was like a magical drug because it had all kinds of weird effects, mostly negative, and like, even I think you could even like you would your soul could detach itself from its body, like you could astral travel and stuff. You could gain like like an intelligence point if you roll really high, like a crit hit. There was all kinds of weird effects. I don't even know what they were. I do remember, however, that like basically after a while they wanted to just try all the different drugs. Basically, it was just fun to check out, and it was like hilarious, the things that they did. But I remember it ended with, I think it was one of the NPCs. Both of them took the same drug, and one of them rolled bad, and they got like an overdose and died. And then the character actually stopped totally because it was too risky, and he like leveled up to level 5, and we stopped playing shortly afterwards. We had still a couple of sessions, but I thought that was just a funny, hilarious moment, and it's just, you know, fooling around. And, you know, yes, it's a serious topic, I know, but if it's, you know, it's just make believe, and you can have some fun with it, you know. And we were like pretty immature, so of course we would do foolish shit like that. And why not use it with the other mechanics? And I enjoyed it a lot. Anyway, and I must say, the Dark Eye, it's really good, really interesting system, and that they have such a mature and realistic kind of idea, but also you add the magical not opponent, the magical element in drugs, you know, because in a world of magic, why wouldn't there be drugs? And why wouldn't there be magical drugs? You know, it's just the nature of humans, I guess. But anyway, so enough of that. The next memory was a GURPS game, and that was actually one of the longest GURPS game I ran. And I had two of my best friends playing it. Well, at the time, this was in college, sophomore year, something like that. So second, third year in college. I think second. And we didn't get to play that often. There was a time we did play actually multiple times, like sometimes every week. Anyway, the point is that we played GURPS, and we mostly played in my standard fantasy setting. But that one got really weird because I basically had the idea, okay, let's try out GURPS superheroes, and you can go off the cuff. I won't even care about the points. Just go crazy. And talking about how naive I was, the freaks that they made, the freak show, man, that was crazy. It was hilarious. It was worth it. Like one guy I remember, I don't even know his name anymore, and I wouldn't even say it, but we didn't start out in a fantasy setting. We started out I wanted to try out more of GURPS Supers. I wanted to play superhero games. But it's like, usually boil down back to fantasy because more people like that. But okay, we started out in a superhero game. So one of the guys, he made a superhero, and he made the weirdest superhero, and like didn't make quite a lot of sense to me. But he had, like, for example, 4 arms, so he could like do multi attacks and shit like that. He could grow. He had like growth, so he could like Ant-Man could grow. And you had what did he had? I think he might have some kind of energy blasts or something. He had a couple super strength. I mean, he would gain super strength when he was grow. He had a couple of powers, and his name was Super Duper. I mean, talk about it was the stupidest, most uncreative superhero name I've ever seen, but we went with it. And so it was a very, like, as nowadays you say, chuckle fuck game. I would call it, back in the day, we just call it a jokester game, you know, a fooling around game or something like that. I didn't know the term chuckle fuck until I started when I got into the OSG. But it was definitely very crazy. And so there was a small fight scene, and he was fighting I made some kind of generic mad scientist and a guy with ice powers, and the mad scientist was building a machine. So we were doing combat. The ice power guy and Super Duper, the formed superhero, fought, and the mad scientist then finished and turned on his machine, and it was a dimensional portal because we love dimensional travel, because you can having characters, especially in GURPS, it's really easy to have characters travel from one dimension to another one. I feel like, anyway, I'm rambling. The point is, he gets to the world, and the world is my standard fantasy setting, because the reason why I did that is because the other 2 players, one of them played his. Again, it was a freak show. He played his, it was Bites. I'll just name him like that, one of his nicknames. And he played a half Earth, half fire elemental wingling, like a small sprite, like this big. And the way how he built him was just very OP, but he was hilarious, and he did put on some weaknesses on him and stuff. And honestly, as overpowered he was, it was actually quite a lot of fun. And then basically the other player, because we were two players and me as the DM, he made a character called Morsis, and he was the cousin of that guy. Because we discussed that they made a small island that was hidden by mist, and it was like an island of sprites and elves and really crazy high-powered magic beings, and they would be like off somewhere on the ice cap, hidden from the normal world. I mean, it was a fantasy world, there was magic and this kind of stuff, but even for that world, they were crazy. They were just, and but anyway, so he played his cousin, and he made him like also just as crazy overpowered. I mean, he was also like a small sprite creature, but he was also a were-jaguar, and he could shapeshift to metal. It was crazy, man. It was, but the point was, so we had this other guy who played Super Duper. We had Morsis, and then we had I forgot the name, but I just know him as the wing-winged Daroth, something like that. Durath. I have it somewhere written down. I have all this stuff written down but I haven't actually written it down now. But the point is that a lot of shit happened. The reason why it just takes forever, because the game started out on a Friday evening, 8 p.m., and we played till next day, 10 a.m. That's why this game was memorable. And I had a couple of beers. The other guys, one of them had energy drinks. The other one had energy drinks and beers with me. I had also some energy. We had just had like pretty much everything. So we went through. So we were in the world, but they ended up in a dungeon, right? But it was not a normal dungeon, because I basically just came out of. I just threw stuff at them, like really weird stuff, and but so they fought all kinds of weird monsters, but in the end, what happened? The reason why I really remember this, I mean, there was even a point where they found like a medallion of wish, so they wished like Tiger Woods, and they like played exploding golf, and that was just crazy. But what really the best part of it was that the Super Duper guy, I came up with on the spot an area, which turned out also to be again a different dimensional area, which I call the Inn of the Dead. And basically, he ended up there, basically dead, in the inn, as a four-armed skeleton talking to another skeleton, which we call the Mad Skull, because whatever you would tell to the Mad Skull, it doesn't matter. The Mad Skull would laugh as like a maniac. So it was kind of like a miniature hell, like for special people. Oh yeah, now I remember. The reason why he got there is because he used the Medallion of Wish, because that's why you should be really careful when people be careful what you wish for, so to speak, because when you have an item that can grant you a wish, you really need to control this as a DM. And I was still learning a lot. I was making mistakes, but I did find a way. It was the closest thing I did to time travel, because there was two wishes and they countered each other to a degree. The point was, the Super Duper guy asked, his wish was that he would have all the knowledge of the universe, And then basically I thought, well, this is going to be OP as hell. I can't allow this. So what do I do? Well, simple. There is gods, and I just said the god of wisdom, of intelligence, said no to that, and he basically sent him to this hell. And but there was some other stuff that happened. It was weird. It was a weird game, but it was really fun, and it's great times. But let's go on, because I don't want to. This video is probably going to be too long anyway. But anyway, let's go on. Right, I have here my list. Microlight 20. Okay. When I got into playing RPGs online, the first campaign I played is what I call what is it? What everybody in the group just called Tarl Iget. And Tarl Iget was the fictional city, the ancient city of Tarl Iget, where eventually they hung out the most because of different reasons. They didn't start there, but they got there they had to get there. There's so many fun stories about this campaign. It was 18 sessions, but it was freaking great. And that's when I started. That was also the setting. Well, actually, the setting that I'm using now is a different fantasy setting that I'm using. The other one I will use again, but this one, which is just I call Dare, is like really an experimental and also not super defined setting where I just throw in stuff. But in general, I really enjoyed that. Anyway, I'm going off. The point was there was a session, and it was a really fun session. And it was like me. I got home from college, and then there was this time where we would meet every Thursday. And after a while, it was like clockwork. We didn't even have to talk about. I didn't have to send them emails, and we just got. This was way before there was a brigade even. So we sat down. Well, not way, a little bit before. We sat down and we played. We played over Skype, and there was a dice room, dicerolls.org or something. And that was it. That was all we had. We had Skype and we had the dice room. And the thing was, the dice room is like an online dice tool, but you can make a room. You just type in the name of the room and a password, you log in, and the room will be always there. I mean, to this day, I can log into that room and see the dice rolls. And it's actually funny because it was a great time because it was very simple. There was no Google Hangouts, and I love Google Hangouts. It's great. I'm using it right now, but it was just very basic, and it was fun, and it was, there was a lot of things that didn't work. But anyway, this was a great campaign, Charlie. But there was a great moment. One of my favorite moments was I had a couple of beers in me, and I was DMing. And a lot of the DMing, what I did was that I just randomly just came up with stuff. I had sometimes I would plan something, but usually they always did the opposite almost or something else. Sometimes anyway, the point is that they got to an area and I wanted to do an encounter. And what I did, I just said, basically it was just an area I just called randomly the Tower of the Wyvern, something like that. Because I think I wanted them to fight a wyvern. They might have even fought a wyvern. The thing was, I just started, and I wanted them to. Then I just came up with the idea. Hey, they should talk with an NPC, and the NPC gives them the what to do. It was very basic. I did nothing super. Just thought, okay, maybe an old wise man. Very cliche, very standard. But so I started talking, and it was just so funny. The first thing I said was like, "Well," and that was the character. And for some reason, it was so hilarious. And I just said, "Well, welcome to the Wizard of the Wyvern Well," and it just became the Wizard of the Well. And the Wizard of the Well has been like a NPC that has popped up in pretty much all of my campaigns so far. It's like that yellow car that Sam Raimi has in every one of his movies, or things like that, or that number in the Pixar films that is the number of their classroom. It's been just like a thing, and he is actually more of a minor deity than just a wizard. He's very powerful, and he usually is like a Deus Ex Machina kind of character where he helps the players when needed. He tells them what to do, and he also annoys them. And it always starts with "well," and he kind of looks like Uncle Fester, kind of a little bit. But I got to really draw him down properly. I got to make a good picture of him because I have this specific image, and that was a great session. And everybody we just laughed, and it was just hilarious. And ever since then, they said the Wizard of the Wyvern Well comes once you summon him with 10 beers, so to speak, because I was pretty drunk at the time, and it was good times. It was just good old college fun. I could talk forever just on this campaign, but we gotta get going here. in the next memory. This one is already more with the OSG, but sadly that recording we don't have. That was a great campaign done by the one and only Andre Martinez, and Andre did this great Swords and Wizardry campaign. And just some people who know already what I'm going to talk about. I'm talking about when I played Born the Bold, okay? And we had Ben Lashmar in the game, and we had Charlie. What's his YouTube handle? Charlie, basically. Like, his full name doesn't come. I'm going to say his full name, but I don't even know what his YouTube handle is anymore. But I just always called him Charlie. So Charlie played. He played this wizard, this dwarf wizard, or magic user as they call it, Dirty Flogem. And I played, of course, Born the Bold. And we're both dwarves, but very different dwarves. I wanted to play as Swingle Tezet, one of the many asshole characters that I play, because I said I'm going to play basically a mini Klingon dwarf, like a very stereotypical dwarf, and played him very greedy, very combat oriented, very like basically like a Klingon mixed a little bit with a Ferengi, really bad combination. And he was always about to get stuff, and everybody was weaker than him. I was like the worst aspects of dwarves, like greedy, warmongering, easy to anger, everything, and just overall a dick. And I enjoyed playing that, like, and it was so funny. And because there was a scene where Ben Lashmar's character, I think another magic user, he was fighting some kind of monster, and I know that Charlie tried to shoot the monster with the bow and arrow, and he crit failed. And Andre and Ben was about to die. I think he had 1 hit point left or some shit like that. And Andre decided that the arrow hit Ben and finished him off. So he killed Ben's magic user character. And yeah, Charlie was devastated in a way, but we all laughed at first. Hilarious. Ben was angry because he barely got to play the character. But it's Swords and Wizardry. It's old school D&D. It's very deadly, can be very quick. And I just basically as Boren, I played him very at times like he was just he didn't care. Like, oh, he's dead, and basically he was saying how much of a weakling he is, and then just took his stuff. And Dirty Flogem Charlie, he like him and Boren, Dirty Flogem and Boren, they had already there was tension building, not between me and Charlie. Charlie's a great guy. But this is the thing. This is when you play a game and you don't meta the shit out of it. It's like you play a character like this, and the other player plays his character in another way. And then basically what happens that sometimes you will clash often because the characters are so polar opposites. And that was like the last straw. That was the last drop. And then we started fighting PvP, and it was so natural. It was so great. And people think that, oh, PvP is bad, we should always hold together. I say PvP can be good if it's not a meta reason. If it's not like, because nowadays it's like, oh, I have a feud with you on the OSG or on the Wild Wild West. Now, therefore, I will meta the game, and I will attack you there or something, or I will sabotage your character or something. I'm like, no. Me and Charlie, he's a great guy. We get along great, and it was just he played a very different character than me. Like, I was basically the jerk. He was the nice guy, and my character, Borin, had a very very narrow-minded view of what a dwarf should be. And basically, we started fighting, and the fight went like basically the first couple of rolls failed to connect, and then we started hitting. And I started hitting, making contact with my weapon. I think I had an axe, and I collected a bunch of weapons. I had a chainsaw at one point. Freaking Andrew gave us the option. But anyway, basically, Charlie connected with his hit, and he was excited because, okay, I'm going to win this or whatever. And cheesed the crap out of Warren. I mean, there's not too much wiggle room because I had only so much options, but the amount of gold that I got, you know, yeah, I basically invested most of it into plate mail, so I had very high protection. So hitting me was very hard in the game, so my DC was really high. In Swords and Wizardry, it's not directly like D&D, but pretty much it boiled down to the same thing, that he was able to connect with me, but he just couldn't get past my armor, basically. And yeah, in the end, I won the fight. I killed him, took his stuff, and Charlie then had a plan. He had already, and it was great. Basically, he did his. He had a thing where the next character was always one from the line of the Flawgem family. So he made like a different Flawgem character, and basically he made him in a sense as a revenge character because he was planning. He didn't meta it, you know. At least I don't think Charlie didn't that, because in the end I was carrying the stuff, and he said basically that eventually he saw the axe, but I kept it hidden for a long time. But you know, the chances of him seeing the axe from his cousin or whatever, that was high. He didn't actually kill me in the end. What happened was we encountered orcs and we were fighting them, and I wasn't doing too well with my rolls. And what happened was the orcs basically killed Boren, and the Flawgem and the other characters didn't help Boren because he was basically, you know, is an asshole. Yeah, I know all the terms. That was the end of Boren the Bold, but that was a great moment. That was a great game, and yeah, as I'm still a little bit hoping. It was also Alex's really weak priest character, or what is it? Cleric character, like really weak. He was hilarious. He went down the line with that, and it's great. But anyway, let's move on to the next one, because this video is like, it's actually a great. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I'm gonna stop myself. This one is again Dark Eye, but this is very recent. This was the last Dark Eye game that I played, and that was the one from the Narrowbin. He did a great job. I really enjoyed it. Sadly, I couldn't continue it. They're still playing it, and this is like the longest online session. Anyway, point is, we're playing Dark Eye, right? Fantasy, German fantasy RPG. Both we're like in the Northlands, the Nordic lands in Thorwall, in that area, or next to Thorwall, and there's the Orc lands. And basically, both me and this is actually comes back to JdrD30, Francois. Me and Francois, we were both Thorwallians, basically Vikings. They're basically Vikings. But we were different because Francois was very much a ranger, you know, living in the woods, you know, tracking, you know, like shooting with bow and arrow. And I was a more classical Thorwallian, you know, on ships. I was like in ships before that, and I had an axe and a scrya and a shield and all of this stuff. But we got along really well, you know. We played this really well. Like we were like, anytime there was magic, you know, Thorwallians they're usually they mistrust magic, you know. They don't like it. They believe in steel, you know, and all this stuff, and they like to drink, you know, mead, of course, out of the horns, all the shit, all the Viking stuff. And we would have great. This is what I remember the most, like me and Francois just freaking talking as characters. So I was Kondar Eriksson, and he was Gruff, and it was great. And there was the best moment was we were discussing food, because this was a very, like, we had to, like, the entire game was we are exploring the Orc lands, which is these wild unexplored lands, and of the Orcs, which the Orcs are more nomadic. So I think they had one city maybe, but other than that, every tribe was nomadic. So it was a really wild and dangerous country. And not only the Orcs, because there's all kinds of other monsters and beings and creatures. But the point is that we were searching for food, and Gruff found some bird eggs, and then he had the idea, yeah, well, I'll make some pancakes just in the middle, or maybe I would have to rewatch it, but I do know we were discussing about different foods, and we just came up off the cuff. And I think he like made like with the bird eggs like pancakes or something, and we were discussing that, and I was like not sure if the eggs are edible and stuff, and we were kind of joking, and it was just a fun moment. It's like these moments, you know, it's not all about just combat or just like the really serious drama role playing. I love when you have moments in a role playing game where you just do like mundane shit, you know, and because role playing games often they push really hard a larger than life storyline, and I like that. But it's also fun to just have role play out some mundane stuff, you know, and it's memorable. It was funny, you know, and it was a great time. It's a great time. Okay, and then the I know this was 5, but I think I added one more because I have so many, and I just wanted. I'm cheating here, so I'm just gonna say I'm gonna add an extra one. I have kind of an honorable mention, but I like it just as much as all the others. And this isn't a phase rip game. I haven't uploaded this yet, but we played this a while ago. This was a phase rip superheroes game in my infamous Super Dicks campaign, which I still need to upload. But basically, we had Swingle was one of the people who played, and Kaiser. And Swingle played a character we called the asterisk, and he was very exact and very detailed. Like everything had to be the right way, and it was kind of funny. It was really funny actually, because like they were basically like mutants, and they were hunted by the government, and they just got away just on the skin of their teeth from a raid, you know, from like a military raid, because they were non-registered. Yeah, it's a very basic storyline. But then they got away, and they were in a mall, and the reason why it was him and Critical Failure, right? That was and what happened is he I put them in the mall so they can get some, you know, supplies, food, weapons, what you, because it's America, so there's probably gun shops and whatever, or whatever they need, you know, or just go somewhere else. But he, of course, because he played his character in a very mundane way, he like called up the hotel and he asked all the details of the hotel, and I had to come up with this kind of stuff. And it was actually cool because I did work for a short time in a hotel, actually 2 times in my life, just a short time, but it still reminded me so for some details that people would ask when they would call up. And so that was kind of a cool. I thought it was hilarious because I told him kind of I was getting a little bit pissed because he wasn't. It was kind of dumb because he wasn't doing anything like, I don't know, useful. It was just mundane shit. But in the end, I liked it a lot because then he said, "Okay, well, you have all this mall. You can buy supplies and stuff and weapons and whatever." And all he did buy was like a fantasy novel to read, and like I had to come up with some random Ghibli Goop name, and we role played this entire part where he goes to the store, and that's when I used Fantasy Ground. So you'll see that once I do upload it eventually, but I will upload it actually soon. But you'll see that you have there was a map for the mall, and it was a really cool one I found. And so he goes to the store, and he moves the guy to the store at the icon, and then we just role play this really benign, mundane shit. And sometimes those are the most funniest moments in a role playing game because it's not expected. You're expected to like always have adventure and always fight something, or always, even if you just interact with NPCs, it should be like big, you know, larger than life conversations, and everybody has their great Sean Connery accent. I'm like, come on. Like sometimes it's just fun when you just do like. That's why I like supers games or any game that is set in the, you know, in the modern day, you know, real world more or less. Well, it's not. It was a supers game, so it's the modern real world more or less, but with superheroes, you know, or more like super people. But it's like basically where it's the modern world, but there's like one supernatural or sci-fi aspect to it, you know, because then you still can have all the shit where you say, okay, I go to this shop, or I go to this shop, or you know, I buy a Coke or I go to Wendy's. I mean, that was a whole thing about the Super Dicks games where they would travel through dimensions and they always tried to find a Wendy's to buy Baconators. I mean, this is the thing. Once I start talking about this, it gets hard to stop, but I just got to stop it here. So I know this is probably already, again, I've been trying to keep the videos short, but oh well, what you gonna do, right? The Rambler. So I'm gonna stop it here. Before I stop the video, I want to tag 5 people. Yep. So I'm gonna tag Alex Swingle from the Mom's Basement YouTube channel, of course, that he's running. And you can see all the nominations in the description below. Of course, I'm gonna also tag Ian from aka Fantastic Dimensions, who I played in his most recent game. What is it? Eclipse Phase, but with phase rules was really cool stuff. And I'm gonna also tag Andrew, aka SR2 Joker. Gonna also tag Fox and friends, you know, so all the entire Seven Realms Productions crew, their channel, and tag them. And I'm gonna also tag the Rouge DM, you know, who I also respect a lot, and she has also ran a really cool game where I played, and I hope we can play more. So in general, with all of these guys are really cool. Check out their YouTube channels. And I really like tag videos. So, by the way, if you watch this and you are not tagged for some reason, yeah, why not make a video anyway? You know, and consider yourself tagged. You know, this is just the name tag I have. You know, the name, because there's always people like, oh, why didn't you tag me? But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this rambly top 5. And basically let me see here. Let me check here. Okay. I wish you all guys happy gaming and fellow Beastians, and for the Death Mug of Doom.